There are 4 areas in your natal chart where your people-pleasing tendencies are most deeply rooted. And in this video, I want to talk to you about those 4 areas, why that is, and what you can do about it. Hi, my name is Maya. I'm your astrology crone, and on this channel, I share a life wisdom as I lived it astrologically, which in other words means that I make sense of myself, of the world, of cosmos, and my place in it by using astrology, which I have studied all my life, which is like 30 plus years. No, it's coming up to 40 now. Yeah, because I'm in my 50s, mid 50s. So, okay, so if that's something it sounds interesting or your cup of tea, as they would say in Britain, then you might want to subscribe. Okay, so 4 areas in your chart where those roots, those people-pleasing behaviors are just so entrenched. Those are your 7th house, your Aries and Libra axis, your Venus, and your Chiron. Now, I'm going to start by like the headline, kind of the one thing that you need to do in these 4 areas. And I have a separate video about that, so I won't be going into depth here about it. But so in all of these areas, one primary thing you need to do is do shadow work. So you need to do your shadow work in your 7th house, the shadow work of your Libra Aries axis, the shadow work of your Venus, and the shadow work of your Chiron. Now, in a nutshell, but in far more in-depth example, I've given it's a pretty long video, about just under an hour, but it's worth watching if you are interested in using your astrology chart. And I'll have many more coming, shorter and different on the same topic, but for the time being, that's the best one I have. So if you're interested in using astrology chart to stop being a people pleaser, which is really a way of evolving and individuating, which is our goal of all of us humans on this planet as we incarnate in these bodies this time around, is to become whole, W-H-O-L-E, and be all that we are. And that doesn't mean just be everything you are every second, every second of the day. No, it just means that no part of you is alien to you, is foreign to you, and you do not love. So every single part of you, you have accepted and love, right? And you then choose what to do with it. And obviously some will be appropriate somewhere and others won't be, and all that stuff, right? So that's what we are here for. That is the work, and that is the path of all of us. Now, what is the version, the holistic version of you, the whole version of you, will be defined by your own chart. There will be another video which I will link once I make it below as well, on the beauty and the power of astrology. But one of the powers of astrology is using it to become whole, to become which is, like I say, in order to become whole, you need to do the shadow work. So in that video I talk about in great depth and breadth about that, but I'll just give you a summary, if you like. What that essentially means is that as you study each of these areas of your chart, like 7th house, Chiron, Venus, and Aries and Libra axis, wherever that is in your chart, so it could be any house, right? It's in 2 houses opposite each other. You study it. That's how you study yourself, and you study your chart by studying your chart, right? So you study those placements. So you might have some conjunctions to those nodal points, or you might have conjunctions to your Venus or your Chiron, or you have maybe planets in your 7th house, or you don't, but you will always have at least the signs. So for the Venus, it will be in a sign and in a house. And it will be doing something to do with the rest of your chart, even if they're not conjunction, like it will have aspects to other planets and points in your chart. So you investigate all that, and ultimately, as you study it, this is the headline. As you study it, you're listening to what triggers you. Remember how in another video, if you watch all my videos, I talked about how triggers are medicine, and how they signpost to what is in us, but we reject it. So when you're listening to your reactions to what you're reading, the moment, the areas of that reading that make you go, that's not me, or like, oh God, that's me, I hope nobody sees that about me, that's your red flag, those are parts of you that you rejected. And remember, the individuation, the shadow work is about bringing it all together, and it's all me, and it's okay to be all of those things. And that's the bottom line. It's okay to be, and you will find all of those things that you are, that you apparently either don't like or you think you don't like, but you will find, and I'll have another, like I say, revamp video on the shadow work and all that. But for a moment, I'll just say this much, that you will find that all the things that you will eventually find, that everything you allegedly despise about yourself, dislike, actually you really like, and it sometimes that's, and it's instantly, it's like, oh my god, yes, that is, I love being that way, but no one else seems to be, so I have to hide it, so I have to like, and you feel that sense of like craving and nostalgia, and just like you just want that part of you to come alive and come alive again. And others will be, because of the conditioning and how you've been brought up and your environment and all that, somebody will feel like a repulsion and like, oh my god, but actually as you dig deeper, you will discover that you love them, and you will discover there is so much life as you arrive at the point of acceptance of those parts of you, that you are given as a thank you gift from those parts of you. You feel alive, you feel like and that's another way of feeling empowered, that you're not like, depleted and small. So the shadow work for all of these placements, the way to, one of the signposts for you is to look for things you don't like about those placements and actually double down on them. But like I say, that's, sometimes it's easier than others, when it's just a matter of getting a permission slip. Oh my god, good, I know now this is why or rather, now I know I can be like this. Now this is my permission slip to be this person. So yes, I can be that person. Other times, like I say, it might be a longer journey to to arrive at that acceptance and desire to be that part of you. But that's in a nutshell. So that's your work with all these placements. Now I'm going to talk about why they are conducive, why in those areas of our chart the roots of people pleasing has taken root, such deep root, because the soil is so fertile in those 4 areas. So let me start with the 7th house. This is the part that whatever our 7th house is, and this is a correspondence to Libra, and I'll have a separate video at some point on correspondences. So if you are interested in kind of how you can combine some of the astrological, how shall I call them, elements, in order to deepen, enrich, broaden your astrological language, your astrological fluency, and your knowledge of astrology, or rather of yourself. It's always about yourself. If you're on this channel, astrology is just a tool to understand and know yourself, not to give readings to other people, although you can do that. But I mean, it's primarily just to, what I do here is to show you how you can use astrology for yourself. So the 7th house is the correspondence to Libra, but just because as I speak to Libra and Aries axis, you will hear me speak of some similar themes. So your 7th house is a point in your chart where whatever you have in that house, so sign and planets or asteroids or points, well, you will have a descendant in your 7th house always. And what else could you have there? Nothing, planets and bodies and whatever, and the sign. So you'll have those 2 things, or and then if you have many planets, then you'll have the sign and those planets, so they're like it's 5, 6 or whatever. But all of that, whatever you have in the 7th house, or rather those things, let's say things, have met the other person for the first time, as far as you in this lifetime, as whoever you are today, can remember. And so it's like we don't know what we are doing, right? But even more intricately and importantly, what's happening in the 7th house, we might be meeting the other, but we're ultimately meeting the feedback we are getting from the other about ourselves, which then ends up defining who we are, right? And so if you're getting a feedback, I have coughing and sneezing fits, which is why I have to often pause. So the feedback we are getting decides what parts of ourselves we will accept and we are happy to show to the world, and what parts of ourselves we will reject, or at least hide for some rare private occasion, or like someone who is close enough to us to that we are happy to let them know, or rather show them that part of us. So, and this is the people pleasing piece. So it's like the pieces of us that others have, like, as they saw us, they're like, oh, you look lovely. So you start wearing just those clothes or that style or that makeup or that haircut or whatever, right? I'm just simplifying all of this. Or they say, oh, I love your, I love how you've been so helpful. Thank you so much, right? So you end up just helping. Just you get what I mean. Like whatever good feedback we are getting, we end up compiling, compounding, doubling down on those qualities of ours in order to keep, it's like we get a sugar rush from the dopamine rush or whatever from all that good feedback. And so that's becomes our MO, main and primary MO, because we don't want any other kind of interaction. Who does, right? Unless you're Venus in Aries or Venus in Scorpio, or maybe even Venus in, Venus in Virgo, which is another unhappy Venus, that it's uncomfortable by nature. So, but yeah, otherwise most people just, all of us really, to an extent, just love to have easy connections and easy relationships with other people. So we give them what seems to work, right? And so everything else that doesn't becomes part of us that we reject. So you see how what we do, we have rejected parts of ourselves, but also you can see how becoming a people pleaser in your 7th house with the themes that you have. So you have a sign, you'll have planets, and those are, so you study those and you realize what those qualities are, and that is how you are being with other people, because 7th house is how we are in our one-to-one connections of any kind, however brief, however even deep, but on the surface, on the mechanics of how we go about connecting and keeping the connection, that's the 7th house. So even if they're deeper connections like your lovers or husbands, there is a 7th house layer of that relation, and then there is an 8th house, which it's a next level of being intimate with someone, but the first layer is always the 7th house. And so you will, as you read your placement, you will see how all the best qualities that people in the world loves about those archetypes that you have in your 7th house, you are a master of. You are so good at it. And then everything else, as you read, you will hear yourself being triggered and not happy about those qualities. If you read the good books on astrology, which also I have a book recommendations video, which I'll also link here. And if I forget, either remind me or just you can find it on my video, on my channel. And so you will see that all the other qualities of those archetypes you have rejected. So that's where the shadow work comes in, which, like I said, there is a separate video on that. The other is the axis of, so there are four areas in your chart. So you could have them all in one area. Yeah, you could have Libra in your 7th house or Aries, and you have Venus conjunct Chiron in your 7th house. So you could have it all together, and that is then, in a way, much easier because it's far more focused, the work. Like you can just like focus on that house and that's it. But if you have, like in my case or many other people's cases, like scattered around, so each of these, like 7th house is one story, the axis is another, Venus is actually, for me, it doesn't matter, like you can have them really scattered around. So that means in a way it's have more work to do. And so the axis of Libra, Aries, wherever you have that in your chart, whichever house and whatever planets you have on either end, if any, right, that is going to be the tension and the conflict between the self and the other. So the self is the Aries piece, and the other is and when I say the other, I mean other people, but one person at a time. That's what Libra 7th house are, one person at a time. Your group of friends, your like-minded people, that's 11th house, or your Aquarius, where you are with people who are with your individuated self. I'm not going to go into Aquarius now, but so just remember, for the Libra and 7th house, we have one-to-one connections, and that's what I mean by when I say the other, right? So wherever you have them and whatever archetypes you have in terms of planets on either end of these, those will be where you are conflicted. It's like the Aries pieces you are selfish about, and so I use air quotes to say that selfish is in my books a virtue, because it means you look after yourself first, and it's basically belonging to self. So if you, like I say, watch my videos, you know that I'm big on etymology. It's like I look at how the word, what's the root of the meaning of the word, and you realize that actually all this morality that's added on top of, as we nowadays use some of these words, or most of them, is like manufactured, if you like. And so that's why I say I don't condone selfishness. In fact, I think it's healthy, the way I use it and the way I think of it and practice it in my life, which is that I belong to myself first and foremost, and I only from that place I can do good in the world, if I do good with myself or for myself or on myself or and all that, right? So anyway, so whatever you have in Aries will be that selfish part of you, and will not wanna, and it will not want to be shared. By that I mean not wanted to be compromised, right? Like it will want to remain pure in its selfhood, and that is not necessarily that is part of you, but I don't know, wherever there is a free PDF as well. I just remembered that it will be listed below as well, which is about every house, like some key themes that I have outlined, free PDF, like I say. So, and also as a video there that you can use to help you kind of, when you listen to videos like this, how you then translate that into your chart. But yeah, so there is that conflict between the selfhood and the other. So the moment the other comes into the story, we compromise. And how do we compromise without losing ourselves in the compromise? And so this is the piece that is particularly big this summer, actually summer of 2023. I'm not sure when I'm going to be posting this. It might be October time, so it will have by then be gone. But the summer we had the Pluto square, the nodal axis. I'll link the video below if it's relevant time-wise, so you can check it as well. But when we have Pluto, like the transformation and the deepest truth that we are facing about whatever Pluto is doing, in this case squaring this axis that I'm talking about, Aries and Libra, then the deepest truth is like, how can we be, the deepest question is like, how can we remain true to who we are while in a relationship with another person? And that's general human evolution trajectory. So it's not just a question of the Libra and Aries piece, but the reason it's a human future and where we're all headed, and I have various videos that touch on this topic one way or another, which I probably won't link in below, but by all means, they all touch on it at some point, so I don't want to link all my videos, that's what I mean. But and the reason this evolution is happening, as in it's the future of humanity where we're headed, is that this whole evolution, social evolution that starts with Libra and ends with Aquarius, which is the most individuated, the final human, the human that's whole. So I don't think I'll arrive at that place in this lifetime. Well, my chart says that I could, but I don't know. But I think there will be new batches of humans that will be born that in the one lifetime they will achieve that full individuation. And I'm sure there are some nowadays as well, and but anyway, so the point is that is the Aquarius piece, or the 11th house is that final journey, the destination, I should say. And so that's what happens from Libra. The next stage is Aquarius, which is the final stage. Hence why this work of becoming, being individual within your relationships, staying true to who you are while still in a relationship, is the goal of humanity. Is how we're gonna achieve peace and love, really reigning this planet, as opposed to some like twisted ways this has tried to be done, like communism being one of them. I mean, I come from the communist background world by birth, so I speak from experience. And instead of that, we will actually have proper. It sounds today utopian, but I believe it will be a reality one day, not just utopia, meaning something that is kind of like too good to be true. Again, maybe that's not the exact definition of utopia, but correct me please below in the comments. Okay, so so you have that conflict of how can you want to be sharing, you want to have other people in your Libra house, you want to have other people there, you want to have connections, you want to connect, whatever it is that you wherever rather you have your Libra, is that you want to share with other people. You love being with someone else in that area of your chart, and many different others at different times, right? But there is this other pool, and then it depends. If you have more planets in your Aries area, that will definitely be winning, or if you have more in the south, in the Libra area, then that will be winning. And or if it's equal or similar, then it's a real tug of war. But it's that, like, you want the Libra, you want others in your Libra area, but in your Aries area, not so much. And so that's so you can see how this back and forth is creating, we're essentially, because we are ultimately heading for the Aquarius piece, for the social, like an evolved social animal. We are unevolved social animals currently, in my opinion. So we are headed for the social, for the society, for being with other people. So with the pull is, in a way, always to find a way to be with others. So we are, and hence, because we are not evolved just as yet, we are still and particularly in this axis, like Aries, the first ever, and then the Libra is the first time ever we are with the other person. We are so unskilled, and so we are still pulling in the direction of people pleasing. So even though you might have a lot of going on in your Aries piece, it will be a longer journey for you to release your people pleasing tendencies in order to bring others in your Libra area, and hush your Aries piece, because it's like too, it's too abrasive, it's too disagreeable to your Libra area, right? So you can, and because Libra, we as a human race, as a human species, are not yet at the Aquarius stage of social skills upgrade and up level and evolution. We, as the pull to people please is still stronger than individuation. Not in an Aries piece so much individuation, but in Aquarius piece. Now, another area is Venus of your chart, which is all about, and I have a whole Venus archetype video, which I'll link below. She's the people pleaser incarnate, particularly the Libran Venus. There are two Venuses. There is a Taurian Venus and there is a Libran Venus, and they're very different in flavor. And so the Libran Venus is the one that's about relationships. So wherever you have Venus, if you have it in either of these things, that Venus will still have qualities of Taurus. It's not like, but if you have it in Libra, it will be much more Libran. But Venus in herself, wherever she is, she carries both, right? You get that. This is where I'm trying to kind of get really practical with very sometimes abstract astrology teachings that can stay too much, in my at least experience, and my lived experience of astrology as a student of astrology, not as I lived astrologically, but as I studied astrology. So I found that it's often too abstract and too impractical, if you like, too theoretical. That's the word. So I always try to and want to bring it down to practical, lived experiences or examples. So and tips and guidance. So this is one of them. So wherever you have Venus, she will have the tendencies of both Venuses, Taurian and Libra. But if you have it in Libra, it will be more Libran, and if you have it in Taurus, it will be more accessible to you. It will be more important to her to be one of those two, depending on where she is. But anywhere else in your chart, any other sign, she will still carry both qualities. And so the one that's particularly conducive to people pleasing, which is what this video is about, like those 4 areas of your chart where people pleasing lives, is the relationships. And it's the Venus is essentially sourcing her identity, her sense of self, and her sense of value from the outside, from other people telling her that she is beautiful and that she is loved. And archetypally speaking, she is the archetypal beauty and love. But this is the piece, this is where the shadow work comes in. So, so this is what I meant when I talked a little bit about the shadow work piece, where we end up doing what we want to be doing really deep down, but we kind of fear it because it's not normal or it's not accepted. It's not, it's not the norm, the convention. So let's say you have Venus in Aquarius. Or you can pick it any sign, but I have to pick one, right? So Venus in Aquarius. So you will, wherever you have Venus, you will be loved and you will be valued, but only for those qualities of that Venus, like the truth of that Venus. So this is where the problem is. We all tend to then go to the default to Libra, because it's about the other. It's the more evolved Libra from Taurus, right? It's like you look at the zodiac and those are the steps of evolution. And this is all about people pleasing. It's about with other people, right? So we all default to Libra, Venus in Libra qualities, which is about the other, which is about making sure the other comes first, because it's for the first time we are meeting the other. So of course it comes first, right? And the Libra is Libra, right? It's a scale, so it's balanced. So the beauty needs to be not too much of this, not too much of that, right? The values are compromise. The other is maybe even more important. Somewhat, wonky value, obviously, because it needs to be equal. Actually, Libra is about equality, but in practice, it's harder than actually easier said than done kind of thing. So that's what I mean. We default. So we are all kind of like hoping to be the ideal of Venus in Libra, because Venus rules the Libra, and it's like I say, it's the most important when it comes to relationship with other people, which is where people pleasing lives. But if you don't have Venus in Libra, then really you are meant to be loved and valued, but for the truth of your unique Venus, which is her sign, her house, and the aspects she makes to other planets. So it gets complex, obviously. So like with Venus in Aquarius, like I said, your taste will be strange, odd. You will be don't have an example top of my head with a Venus either Venus conjunct Uranus would be another example. So one great way of kind of searching and kind of getting comfortable with your oddness, because Aquarius is the individual. It's like the one that stands out, the one that's different, right? So your beauty is different. You don't come into the mold. You don't tick the conventional criteria of beauty. But the beauty of that is that that is what you find beautiful. So you already won half of the race or the game or whatever, right? Because you actually love, that's your aesthetic. If you have Venus in Aquarius, you love odd stuff. You love weird things, unusual, off the beaten track aesthetics, right? You love them. With Venus in Aquarius, you actually love that. But you might struggle to be that yourself, to carry that aesthetic on your skin, on your surface, in your appearances, in your ways of relating with others, because it's like frowned upon or it's downright rejected. You see what I mean? But the trick and the wisdom that it's hard to put into practice, I get that. But knowing that that's what it is gives you that real like sense of, it certainly did to me. It's the permission slip ultimately. So having that weird, odd Venus that you actually really love is now permission slip that once you embody her fully, you will be loved and valued. The thing that we all want and seek, but we seek it wrongly because of the stuff I just talked about. I'm not going to cover it again. Okay, and the final piece, the Chiron, which is, that's basically a rejection wound. I talk about Chiron everywhere. I think I have a separate video. So everything that's relevant, any video that's relevant to what I'm speaking, always check my description. I always link them there. And if not, just always feel free to ask me in the comments. Chiron is, wherever we have Chiron, we fear rejection in the most visceral, in the most like, oh my God, I cannot bear it. And it's like a wound, like an infested wound. I always use this metaphor for Chiron. It's the wound that has been neglected. So the Chiron original wound is that he was rejected by his mother. And then the second wound, which he's famous for, is the arrow that he's been hit by from Hercules. which was poisonous, but because he's immortal, he never died, but the poison was there and creating, the wound, right? But the original wound that he left, so he spent the rest of his life, I'll finish the other sentence, I just realized, but hey, Mercury in Gemini, hello. Is that he spent the rest of his life until he decided he'd rather die than face the original wound, trying to heal it, and became such a good healer, which is why he's a wounded healer, because he helped everyone else, because he understood every plant on the planet, but none of it helped him, because that's the point. The wound that was underlying, the infestation underneath that wound, was the rejection wound by his mother, which he never attended to because it was too painful. So the too painfulness of the original wound is manifested by the infestation, which I'm not saying he literally had this. You won't find a painting with an ugly infestation. I might actually create one of his wound, but that's the symbolism, if you ask me. And so imagine just any wound on your body, like you cut and then it got infested because you didn't, it's just kind of like full of pus and all that. Hopefully you're not eating. That you can't come near it, right? The sensation. It's also like with the boils on the skin, like spots, acne, but like deep. Yeah. It's like if it's here and you're here pressing, you can feel it, right? And it hurts. So that's the sensation of Chiron. It's like, oh my God, I cannot come near that. So wherever you have Chiron sign, conjunctions, obviously house and all that, those themes, you have dread. Like you have such like, oh my God, I can't bear to do this stuff. So again, as per my shadow work explanations, as in advice and guidance at the beginning of the video, you can have there's some stuff there for you to work with, but also there's this longer video that talks about how to use astrology for shadow work. So that's what you do. You look at your Chiron, and it's the hypersensitivity. So remember that other piece, which is also elsewhere in my Chiron videos, which is that the reason this is so painful for Chiron is because Chiron is like hypersensitivity, which is what I learned from, I always quote him, obviously, Tom Jacobs, my favorite astrologer. So he's mentioned, he introduced that concept to me, that is Chiron is like having hyper sensitive antennas to the energies around us. So we're sensing other people and their moods and their rejections of the concepts that we bring. So they're about them. And so what we have to learn with Chiron, that it's not personal. When you're just, it's not meant for us. If it was meant for us, it would have been loud and clearly communicated to us, because it's not meant for us. But because it isn't meant for us, rather, we are not hearing it so loudly. But with Chiron antennas, hypersensitive, we are. But we are confusing it that it's meant for us. Even if it sounds like it is, it's not meant for us, it's not ours. So that's the wisdom of Chiron, to drop that, like, just drop it. It's a baggage, you don't want it. But you have to reconcile and make peace with the fact that you will be feeling it. Always you'll be feeling it. You just need to remind yourself to drop it and not carry it as your own. And so that's where the fear of rejection, because that's that's what we are sensing, that rejection so easily, and we'll do everything to cover it so that we don't experience that horrific rejection of the mother abandoning us in Chiron's story, of the pus of the wound, the infested wound that we cannot. It's so painful that we need an anesthetic for someone to clean it up for us, right? So it's like we'll do anything and everything, like we'll spend the rest of our days and become mortal, even if we were immortal, just so we don't face that. So you see how and why Chiron, where we have Chiron, is, people-pleasing, fertile ground. And I'm gonna wrap up by saying this one thing, that essentially, as you study, which is kind of what I said already in different ways, but when you look at all these 4 areas of your chart, just remember that you are meant to. It's okay. Wherever you have Chiron, it's not easy. So that's part of the shadow work. That's the critical part. You can't just skip the acceptance of where you're at and your truth, as ugly as it is in this very moment. So it's like wherever you have Chiron, wherever you have Venus, and all the ugliness and of all the ugly truths that are associated with each of these 4 placements in your chart, your first step is just to love them, to learn to love them, and only then you can move to the more evolved trust me on this one. And I'm sure, you know, if you're here, you probably know this already yourself. But yeah, so just remember that. And on that note, I hope this was helpful. Let me know anything, just any feedback. Just give me comments below, like, you know, what would you like me to clarify more? Was anything not clear? Would you like me to talk more about something or the other? Anything, right? And any constructive feedback I'll take into account, and you know, it will help me produce content that is more useful or helpful to you. So yeah, let me know in the comments, and see you next week.